And we're back, and you are listening to Villaincast, BJJ Anti-Heroes, with myself, Chris the Villain Pains, and Naki El Jefe Arshed. And welcome to Reap the Week. Firstly, a thank you to our sponsors, the lovely patrons on Patreon. Thank you for believing in this work, and if you'd like to learn more about supporting this channel along with receiving exclusive content such as new episodes of How to Defend Everything 3.0 along with personal coaching, you can find out more via chrispainsbjj.com. Hi, Nak.
How's it going?
How's it going?
I'm good, mate. All good.
I don't know if that was a delay there or we're just idiots.
I think there was a delay.
Let's hope there was a delay or we're just stupid. So it looks like this little Discord / Reap the Week relationship is going quite well. So if anyone hasn't picked up yet, we have a Discord channel. There are links all over the place on YouTube videos, and if you're watching this via YouTube, there is a video. If you listen to this podcast, there is a video for this on YouTube. There is a link to the Discord channel. If you have any questions you'd like us to talk about on the podcast, drop us some messages through there, and we'll talk about it. It's going quite well. I think it's definitely that kind of. We answer, people respond, and we just kind of build that conversation. It seems like I know it's kind of like a very slow way of doing a conversation because we're essentially just doing it like 1 week apart. We get questions and then we answer it via this. It's going quite well. Anyway, catching up. How's your week been?
It's been good, to be fair. Good start as well. I've had a good week of training, I had a really good week of training since I've been ill and come back. I had a really good week of training.
Yeah, I went the other way. I've been just a bit fatigued the last couple of days. I don't know if I'm coming down with something.
Maybe.
Yes, I didn't roll today. I forced myself in the gym though, which actually
good.
It wasn't on our Discord channel, but goes on to the first thing I want to talk about. So you're a fitness PT. Are you, Naki?
Yes, I am, indeed.
So you've had an interesting career trajectory up to this point of becoming a fitness PT. So I know it. Do you want to fill in anyone listening to this? What got you into the PT? And also, like you came to Fighting Fit 8 years ago, not looking as you do now. So I'll leave the brief history of Naki up to you.
Yeah, I'll just do a brief one. So, my PTing, I've always been involved in fitness in some sort of way. I mean, I used to play football when I was younger, and then played like for a team, and then played casually as well. And then I played rugby up to like county level, up until I was like 16, 17. So I've always been involved in like being fit, even though I put a lot of weight on over the years, but I was always active. But when I went into teaching, I just wanted to like find a way out, and I was already training jiu-jitsu. I thought, you know what, I can make, because I went and did the Europeans, if you remember, as a white belt, but I went into the blue belt division or something like that. But that's when I realised that I can make a good go of this. So when I came back, I thought, let's give this a shot. I had some money saved up, so I thought, all right. I wanted to do something in that PT side of the world anyway, so let's just give it a shot. And then from then on, I just started researching different kind of programs and how people train conditioning, losing weight. Because, like I said, I was 130 kilo-ish when I met you probably first time, and I walk around about 85, 86 at the moment.
Which is insane.
I mean, I was talking to Arturo the other day, and we had a similar conversation, and it was interesting. He couldn't believe it when I showed him the pictures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You were you did not look as you do now, which is kind of upsetting because you move like someone who's 85 kilos, yet you have the power of someone who has 130, and it's.
I call it the Volkanovski effect.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You are a Volkanovski from Stoke. So going on from that, then, when I first started doing jiu-jitsu as well, 14 years ago, I arrived relatively overweight. Well, not overweight. I was overweight before I started getting back into martial arts again. I was quite a lot bigger than I am now, and I had never lifted weights in a gym before, and I went to Fighting Fit, our current gym, and got the shit kicked out of me, and realised I had no cardio and no strength. So I think the initial thing, I couldn't run more than like half a mile. I remember the first time I ever went into a gym, I put 10 kilos either side of a 20-kilo bar and dropped 40 kilos on my chest. And some dude had to come up and like one-arm deadlift the barbell off my chest because I couldn't lift it. I was that weak. And yeah, I also couldn't swim. I don't know if that's related to grappling, but I thought it had to do with cardio and full body motion. So I taught myself to swim until I was like doing a mile a day. And that was like my initial kind of fighting cardio. I then came across the work of Martin Rooney, Training for Warriors. This will be about late 2009, early 2010. If anyone has a chance to look up Martin, he used to be so his first book, Training for Warriors, the guys demonstrating all the techniques in that book, all the workouts, were like Gracie's and stuff like that. Like he was the S&C coach for a lot of those early BJJ kind of heroes, and because he operates in like the northeast of the US, the guys known for their cardio, Jim Miller, Frankie Edgar, he's also their S&C coach. So he's got a bit of a pedigree on that. He also helps with NFL draft. And I went to his Training for Warriors program. He then released 2 more books. He released Ultimate Warrior Workouts, which was... he went around the world to like different martial arts, like boxing in the UK, kickboxing in the Netherlands, and took workouts that those athletes were doing, and then put them into this book. It was like quite a thick book as well. And then the third one, which had like Frankie and Jim demonstrating the techniques, was Warrior Cardio, and that's like my Bible. Like for getting fit for jiu-jitsu, that was my Bible. So yeah, I went from nothing to decent cardio, like decent fight cardio, and decent fight strength, courtesy of Martin. But I'll go into like details on what kind of like I used out of that. But what did you find got you fittest for this? Like, what was the thing that you kind of went for in the gym that kind of got you strong and everything else you needed?
That Martin Rooney book, I don't know if you remember, you recommended it to me, and them hurricanes I do sometimes, they're crazy. 20 minutes of death.
I've just got back into them, and oddly, like, so we have a white belt in our gym who's a little beast, Archie, and I put him onto hurricanes, and that's why in this recent competition, like, he just did not get tired. He was just smashing and just he was going. And yeah, once you kind of get used to hurricane training, the name of his like is HIT training. Damn, yeah, that stuff's violent.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's what inspired me to then create my own workouts using the HIT and the circuit training kind of methods, where it's like a certain time period with explosive power, with the minimal rest or varied rest depending on what I'm working on, and including the main movements, pulling, pushing, squats, hinges, deadlifts, and that's how I design my own conditioning. I don't really copy anyone in that sense, but I just put a group of exercises together, what I'm doing, do it 3 times a week, and then I just use that method of time, just mess with the variables.
Yeah.
See what really fucks me up. It's what it really is. That's how I gauge them. I'm like, what's fucked me up? And then I rate it out of 10 in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this again.
I think that's pretty much where I ended up going eventually, was just like, what can I do to fuck myself up? And still sticking within like the
Something's wrong
sprint.
with us.
Yeah. But yeah, as in that idea of progressive overload, like it always has to be challenging and suitable to your sport. Like doing just flat cardio like for 2 hours doesn't make sense. Similar to what we were talking, was it last week episode? I can't remember, about GSP. How Chael Sonnen was talking about how he was, I think he was fighting on a UFC card. He heard GSP was down in the basement training at like some hotel in Vegas. So he went down, and GSP just does like 5-minute rounds, but they were like the hardest rounds you've ever seen. And that was it. Like no more, no less. And Chael was used to his like hardcore, wild wrestling training, and was just to watch this, and guys go, nope, that's my 5, done. And like, that's one of the things that it was interesting. Like married up with what I was doing with the hurricane training, like it married up to this idea that I'll do 5 minutes of insane S&C, stop for a minute, which sometimes in a that makes more sense for MMA, but in a tournament, like you might have like a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
So being able to get your heart rate back down again, to be able to go again was kind of the thing that I really wanted to push. I then changed up when I was doing sub only, like 10-15 minute matches. I'd not have the breaks, and so I'd go for like 15 minutes of hard cardio. And that was like, that informed my training, as it were. The other thing that I found quite interesting, so he refers to these things called Sadiv sets, named after, I think, someone in his gym. And it was a way of like improving strength without gaining too much mass. Which, yeah, I actually met Martin at Body Power in the UK. He was like a key speaker at one point. Like, this must be about 2011. I was like meeting my heroes. And like his Sadiv set workout. So I started, like, say, benching 40. I was 82 kilos. Started at 40, managed to get myself up to about 87. I plateaued for quite a while. Met Martin, he talked about Sadiv sets, and he talked about push-ups. Then took my bench from like 87 up to about 130 within like 6 months or something stupid. Like 6 months to a year, it was bonkers. Like, nice. So, yeah, like when it comes to S&C, that's what I pretty much will come back to now. Is so we talk about hurricane, like hit. I think sprinting, but also like the use of the treadmill. Like I found was really good for mental cardio. As in, if you use a bike or a track or anything else, if you get tired, you'll just slow down. But the treadmill don't care. If you're on a treadmill and you set it to 10% incline and like 24 kmh, if you get tired, treadmill don't care.
Falling off. Yeah.
Treadmill's going to fart you into the ground. And that kind of like, that's the same as a fight, as it were.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how tired you're getting. Like if you suddenly have an explosive, few seconds, if you get tired, you're done. Your opponent don't care. Yeah, same as a treadmill. And I appreciated that kind of mental cardio over time. I'll push through this even if it hurts. And yeah, definitely was like the main catalyst for me being able to survive competitions and regular training. It definitely was a good supplement alongside good rounds.
Yeah.
And that's it's one thing I've been saying in the gym recently. I think I said again, my brain gets fried. Continuity. So if you're going to do something in class, do it in sparring. If you're going to do something in sparring, do it in competition. Don't separate these things out. Otherwise, why are you doing them? You like, if you think in competition, well, I need to be on top to score points, then spar like that. Spar to be on top and get points. Like, there has to be a factor of that in your training. And if everyone's doing it, then you'll have people force you onto the ground. You have to get back up again. And then, like you'd say, your drilling has to then reflect that. Like, it has to reflect getting them back on top, etc. I think since we've kind of moved to that like more honest style of sparring, like more continuity between training, it has necessitated better S&C, just so I can keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beating the age out of me, so to speak. No wonder I felt fatigued. So going actually onto the Discord then, and questions that people have asked. We talked last week about guard passing, about denying the spaces behind the knees and the armpits. What controls to look for during passing?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think a good point to start at is, so if you are, unless you're passing from distance and going around someone, you're going to have the problem of inside outside. For anyone who hasn't come across one of my videos, so I've talked about this. It's completely stolen from Gary Tonin. Is this idea that in a forward-facing exchange, so say if Naki here was in close guard and I'm in his close guard, there's an inside party and an outside party. So if Naki in holding close guard, he is the outside party, he is around me. I am the inside party because I'm in between his legs. But if Naki was to hold butterfly guard, I am now the outside party because he is in between my legs. The reason that's important is whoever the outside party is in a forward-facing exchange is afforded upper body attacks. Triangles, arm bars, kimuras, etc. a lot easier when you have outside control. Meanwhile, if you're on the inside, it's easier to go for leg locks. So if I'm inside Naki's close guard, it's easier for me to get leg locks on him. And that will initially inform my opinion of what controls I'm looking for whilst passing and what I'm defending, what I'm looking after. The only guard that kind of holds the line between the two is half, because there's an inside leg and an outside leg for both of us. And so you're vulnerable to everything, and everything's on the table. It's the wild west of guards. Probably why I love it so much, just because you can go upper body, lower body, and chain ideas together. Sometimes I don't even bother passing. I'll just submit you from inside the guard because let's play. I love playing top half. It's just wild west fighting. So that's an interesting part of what controls to look for then is what you're exposing. Like, it's very fair, passing, being inside someone's close guard, and depending on what you do with your arms, you're leaving your upper body exposed. Same as if I'm in butterfly, I don't necessarily have to worry so much, but if I was to suddenly start standing up and expose the back of my knees, leg locks will come in.
Leg lock city.
Exactly. So that would be the other thing that we were talking about in class is this idea that when I'm hand fighting, I either want very decent armpit control, so very deep overhooks, or super deep underhooks that are completely exposed to the armpit, so that I try and get the shoulders flat to the ground. Or if I'm going for 2-on-1s, what I've realized is that I always try and make you cross your center line with your own arm. So that's, same with arm drags and same with Russian tie-ups. I'm always want to be on the outside of your arm and make it cross yourself. And so that's what I realized that I do a lot when it comes to hand fighting, is I make you cross your own path, which kind of shuts off your back arm, that you can't fight with it. And I start twisting people up. So when it comes to passing, that's essentially deep unders, deep overs, flatten them out if I can. If I can't, I'll make them cross themselves. And if I can't do either of those, I just fight for the inside. As in, whoever, same with Muay Thai when you look at the plum, whoever's controlling the inside of the neck has their arms on the inside, has the neck. If your arm's on the outside, you don't have the neck. Exactly the same, like collar and elbow. I want to be framing on the inside of your bicep and your neck. And if you get on the inside of mine, I lose control. So that's the main points I look at when I'm building my passing and building my drills, what's exposed, inside outside theory. When it comes to that forward positioning, that forward facing exchange, who controls the centre line space? So bicep, collar and elbow, tie clinch, etc. And if I can get the shoulders flat to the floor, great. If I can't, I mean, you cross your own centre line with 2-on-1 grips. Anything to add? That's my take on it.
Well, yeah, not much, but I mean, yeah, we'd get too specific then, but I think as an overall point of view, you've kind of hit all the points. I mean, if they are just playing back guard when they're just lying on their back, the way I look at it sometimes is I've got 2 feet, 2 knees, and 2 hips to cross before I can lay down as a wet blanket. So, and then I just dance. So I go in, out, pin, legs, pressure, speed pass, whatever works, because somewhere they will slip, and you're also cooking them at the same time. But other than that, I've got nothing else really. I think that you covered the points overall with the inside, outside, and crossing the centre line. And obviously, again, it's part of it, but not approaching, just giving someone their, like giving you the back of your knees away from, just people just step into half guard or they just step into butterfly. Why? Just because someone's sitting there like in a butterfly position doesn't mean I have to play butterfly with them. Nah, mate.
No, choose your game. Like choose the battlefield. Yeah, that's essentially it. And I think the other one was to I remember on the Bullshido forums like 15 years ago, just as I was getting into BJJ, was like things, people writing back then, things they wish they knew when they started jiu-jitsu. And yeah, that idea of like deal with the weapons as they present themselves, deal with the feet, deal with the knees, deal with the hands, don't just jump for the neck and get all wrapped up. I think, dealing with everything and then progressing was always a good point. That kind of like really helped me out in the early days. Christian Graugot's G-spot passing, just getting off the kneecaps. And then Chris Hauter, again, he said something very similar. It was, I want to get ahead of the knees and I either go over them, under them, around them, or through them. Then with Fionn Davis, when she came around, she said like either pin them or split them. Either pin these together or split them apart. And I think mixing those ideas together all kind of hit the same points. Like over, under, round, and through, pin them or split them. Getting off of the knees, denying controls to the other person. Hand fighting, controlling the centre line, inside-outside theory, what you're exposing if you progress. Controlling the centre line or making them cross their own centre line with 2-on-1 grips. Deep unders, flatten them out to the back. And the final one is, especially when it comes to half guard, is I think that Gordon Ryan said this at a seminar I went to like years ago, is that being able to threaten legs from the guard will give you passes because you make them think of something else and be panic enough to actually give away the pass. Same as you could threaten a pass and most people will panic and probably give you a leg lock. And so it's that same, like, if all someone has is a pass, that's all I've got to worry about. Yeah. Like, you're just throwing passes at me. Like, you're just jabbing. And if I've got retention, I'm going to be able to frustrate you. But if you've got a jab and a cross, a pass and a leg lock, now I'm worried because I don't know which one you're going to go for, and you can lead me down a garden path and then fuck with me. I think that's quite critical. And that's probably why I migrated towards half guard, because I like the idea of I can threaten sub and also threaten pass. And not just threaten sub, I can threaten leg and I can threaten arm and neck, because it's the inside-outside theory of I've got everything at my disposal. As long as I stay tight and I win the exchange when it comes to hand fighting and I'm aware of my own knee line. I liked that jab, cross, hook aspect to it, as it were.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that's some fair ideas when it comes to passing. And that actually leads on to the next question then. So all the stuff because we've been making videos now for, can you believe this, 4 years?
Wow.
Dude, so How to Defend Everything, the one that started all, came out in 2019, April, May. And we were like, ah, shit, that went well. Should we make some videos, Knack? And so those first ones we made are 4 years old. That's unreal. And I think it's a very fair point to say is, and you know this now, black belt, you progress just as much, if not faster, at black belt than any other time of your jiu-jitsu career. There's such a, there are times where you definitely plateau the same, but there's also times where you just like receive this deluge of information. You can interpret information so much better.
Yeah.
And you change. And I am not the same person I was 4 years ago. I am older, for starters. And like, you're not, you got your black belt when? January? We're now 6 months
January.
post. 6 months you've been a black belt. Mad, isn't it? And you're not the same person you were 6 months ago.
Nowhere near, mate.
Exactly. And so that's like one of the interesting things. Like, that's why it's kind of like always been a bit of a issue releasing videos, is that I know it's going to be wrong soon. Probably as soon as I've made it, I'll go, shit, I know better now. I need to delete that. And, the information that, is like Defend Everything. There's a lot of stuff that I would keep, but there's also so much stuff I take out of that video now and go, actually, no, I wouldn't do it that way these days. How I hold Running Man, like, entirely different. Don't do grilled chicken, not the same way.
No. Gone.
No, not gone, but as in the way to explain it's very different. It's a lot simpler. Such as like, I did on the most recent Patreon video, a breakdown of guard retention and how it differs from grilled chicken. Just simplifying it, just talking about framing points and that over and around and through and I don't know, a lot of stuff that is kind of like, we don't need that anymore. From it doesn't need to be so complex. Talking about space as well, like not just control but space, like keeping space on your side. Turtle changed. Turtle had to change. So normal BJJ turtle, we obviously adopted the Preet turtle, which is like, sticking your elbows into your armpits, and occasionally gets used. But the problem is when you have someone lifting up your ankles and pushing you on your own head, that turtle becomes a problem. So we had to adapt it due to having to deal with a more wrestling style of jiu-jitsu. And so it kind of that informed how we look at things. Staying on the floor unnecessarily changed. Don't have to do that anymore. So yeah, I think it's, you can take a lot of information from How to Defend Everything and the BJJ Fanatics, How to Defend Against Anyone. But like Preet says, like, you have to kind of keep up with his defensive BJJ website to get the newest stuff. Yeah, as you should. Like, there's always, you almost like follow that journey. If you're interested in that black belt's work, follow their journey, and don't always go on the, what they said 1, 2, 3, 5 years ago, because they're probably wrong. They've probably changed their mind since then. If they're training consistently, they've definitely changed their mind. It'd be weird if they didn't. Like, did you just stop training for like 4 years?
Yeah.
Same as like, you wouldn't hold anyone else to the same regard. Like, you wouldn't look at a blue belt and go, yeah, but you're not rolling as you were. Wouldn't look at a brown belt, shall I say, and think, well, you know what, rolling that you were as a blue belt. What, 4 years ago? Yeah. Probably because I was a blue belt. A bit better now. You get the same progress.
Yeah.
So going from that then, someone who comes across the defensive stuff, whatever form they found, whatever age it is, how do you implement it no matter what belt, What would you say comes first?
So when I get beginners nowadays, I don't teach them the postures first. I always teach them pummeling first, to make them understand the importance of that space between the armpits. Then I show them head and arm control, basic ways to hold it, and then I show them single leg, and then I make them play so they understand the importance of the spaces. Show them a defense each from the position, and then I'll let them play for a few weeks, and then when I'm happy that they can defend and attack at least one thing from each position, so head and arm, a pummel body lock position, and a single leg. I might add a double leg in there depending on what kind. If they like big guys, I probably won't show them a double, just for safety reasons, just for the time being. And then I'll show them. Then I'll take them to the ground, and then I'll introduce not guard. I used to do guard. I'm not gonna lie. I've changed it now. I introduce getting up to them. But during that period, I make them do technical get-ups so they understand how to get up. So when we do hit the ground, what we're looking for. So that's how I treat my first, I would say, 8 weeks beginners, if I get a pair. Or singular people.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do similar in privates and stuff. Probably not the same completely. So I first thing I talk about is the bottom leg, getting up. That's the main thing, like high hips. Make sure you're on top. And if your ass hits the floor, get up. Freeing the bottom leg, freeing the bottom arm. And then, once that idea's kind of settled in, talking about, guard retention, open guard, but not grilled chicken. Again, too complex. But using the whole 4-frame, 2-frame idea, as in 4 frames to defend yourself. So don't let anyone north of your kneecaps. Make sure they're south of your feet. You need 4 frames to create that kind of bubble of safety, but you need 2 frames to be able to stand up in connection with the floor. Then, so it's kind of like the progression of problems. Like, first thing, I don't want you on your ass. Be on top. Second problem, if you're going to be on your ass, you need to stop me from getting past your knees. So this is how you do it. Third thing, then, if I get past your knees, you need to deny me going into your armpits. So here's running man. Which then, kind of demonstrates that, right, well, if you go to this position, I can't get you. But one thing, especially when it talks about running man, is being super early with it. I think that's critical. And this applies to anyone who's learning the defensive postures for the first time, is pull early. It has to look a bit mental. But if you are late with it, you won't trust it, and you'll miss the cue, you'll fuck it up, and you'll get stuck in side control or mount or worse, and then you go, oh, fuck it, it doesn't work, and you'll abandon it. But if you pull early, you can then get later over time, because you can kind of build up that database of knowledge of, right, I can go a little bit later, that was too early last time. And then one day you'll get caught and you go, ah, shit, too late. And so that's enough for me to tell people, right, well, pull your bottom leg free, get on top, always get your hips higher. If I get you on your back, you need to use your 4 frames and keep you south of the 4 frames. Don't let me touch north of your kneecaps. If I do get past your knees, just running man, save yourself, and then working on getting out of running man to turtle and getting back up again. And then when it comes to that, I just looking at basic wrestle ups. As in, instead of like teaching people to shoot, which again is pretty complicated, teaching them to do a wrestle up, grip, and mat returns. It's a lot safer, a lot less amplitude to the takedown. They can there's not that initial inertia from just flying at someone and that impact. They're already kind of connected. We're just putting them back on the floor again, or getting returned to the floor, so it doesn't intimidate them as much. And builds up more of that kind of knowledge that once you're in a clinch, this is how you do it. All you need to do then is cover distance. And closing the front door, being able to stand up without your front arm exposed and your front side exposed, essentially standing, running man. And then, I've realized that's all I now do. That's all if I feel I need to keep making progress, that's all I'm really conscious of, is that if my ass hits the floor, get up. If I can't, 4 frames, 2 frames. If they get past running man, get up again, and that's it. And then just reversing that on someone, like making sure that I keep the intensity on so they can't get up. I defeat the 4 frames. Don't let them have a bottom leg, and then inhabit the armpits. That's it. Just rinse and repeat. As boring as it may be on a day-to-day basis, do it again and get better at it. And I think that's a really good frame. Like base, I don't need to then show you stuff for a while. And I think I said it in class today as well. I reiterated this. Is this idea that 5 minutes isn't a lot of time to learn anything. Like that's barely a tutorial on anything. Like give people time to do it. I know it's it's almost like teaching with ADHD or something. Like you want something new now. It's nuts, isn't it? I say this from a position of guilt. Is that in a class, teaching, back in the olden days, doing 3 or 4 techniques a night, and you think, and then especially if there's been a warm up and you're doing an hour's class. And you've done 10, 15 minutes of a warm-up. You've left 45 minutes, you're doing 3 or 4 techniques. You're barely spending, 5-ish minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes or whatever, explain the technique. And then 5 to 10 minutes drilling, 5 minutes per person or less, before you change the techniques up. How the fuck are you going to learn anything in that time?
Where's the sparring?
Not the sparring, but just learning anything.
Where's the sparring? That's all I care.
Yeah, I know. You enjoy it.
No, but I agree. There's no learning time. There's absolutely zilch. Like you say, there's how many moves are you going to show, and how in 5 and 10 minutes, what are they going to learn? Like, can they explain it?
Yeah, I know it's easy to 3 is a weird number to keep coming back to, but I like this idea that I want to give you if you can figure out the right way of drilling. This idea, I like this idea of adding complexity or adding intensity. If you're going to add a new mechanic and add resistance and make puzzles for your partner, don't add intensity. You have to take the intensity off. You're trying to educate them. You're not trying to... You're trying to make your partner better, not prove that you're better than your partner. I think that's really, really important when you start adopting this style of training. It's so easy just to almost like go back into sparring again, like just losing control. No, be disciplined. You're the person who's trying to make this person better. If you keep losing control and just going aggressive or changing things up, no, give them time to learn. Like if you're going to introduce a mechanic, like say we're doing person on foot, I want you to stand. Person on top, I want you to hand fight from within their guard. So they have to hand fight and find the space to get up. Right, just hand fight for that period of time. That's it. And then that's a mechanic. And then you increase intensity over time, the more they start getting up. So they can learn the moments when they want to go. Don't suddenly go, right, but this time I'm going to hold your leg as well. Well, that's a new mechanic. We didn't agree upon that. And if you're still keeping the same intensity, how am I going to learn anything right now? If you're going to suddenly go, right, well, we're really good at the whole standing up under pressure with hand fighting. Now I'm going to grab your leg at the same time. Now I'm going to load the intensity again. Now let's build it back up. I'm going to create new puzzles for you. That takes time. That's not a 5-minute drill. That can be a whole class. And it doesn't have to be, you've solved it and got the technique within 5-10 minutes. Cool, let's move on to the next. Might take a week's worth of training.
Yeah. I heard you shouting today when I was drilling. I don't know who you were shouting at. It's not fucking sparring. I'm like, shit, somebody's not doing it properly.
It's a skill to learn to drill properly, and that's the thing. I think it's easy to go between, or is it compliant drilling or is it sparring? Well, no, there's something in between. Making puzzles for someone and having them solve puzzles. It's not sparring, and it's trying to find the right way of reiterating that. I think it's difficult. Which is essentially how we then make up classes and then maximising that learning time. And I think separating out S&C, if you're serious about jiu-jitsu, a bit of calisthenics, running around the room like it's, high school PE and doing push-ups and star jumps. We're adults. Why are you doing star jumps? That looks a bit bonkers. I get maybe shrimping, but shrimping without context is still just as pointless. You can build that into a decent drill. Just fucking get on the mats. Introduce the idea for the day. If you've been outside, if you've been up awake at that point, you've probably been warm. There has to be that trajectory of intensity. Start low, get intense. Don't go, right guys, in we go. Let's go crazy warm up. Rah! Now everyone sit down. And now we're going to get cold and I'm going to talk for 5 minutes about drilling. And then we'll do some compliant drills. Then let's start sparring. And it goes crazy again. Like, what the hell? Like, no, just build it up over time. There is that idea that, we have to do better. And again, that goes back into what I said earlier, like the coaches, if they're not getting, if their stuff's still the same as it was 5 years ago, I'd be worried about that coach. They're not progressing either, which is terrible. How do you feel with that idea of drilling? Because you took part of it.
I love it because I just love moving around. I don't want to just sit there and watch some moves happening which ain't gonna work. So I love the active drilling. I love teaching it because I teach it the same way now, and I love doing it myself as well because you can just see the progress with everyone. You know what I mean? It's different.
Yeah, I said it has to be that kind of like microcosm of what's going to happen in sparring, what's going to happen in competition. Let's happen in training. Like now, you're going to try and get up, but someone's going to try and stop you. They're going to try and hand fight you or control your legs. Right. Let's isolate that. And then get the side effect that the person making the puzzles is improving their knowledge about how to hold you down granularly. Not just balls to the wall, let's start sparring and adding new mechanics. Like, you need to know when things change. But then that carries over to sparring. Like, right, okay, now we're doing that. We're going to be getting up from these situations. Yeah, you're going to fail. It's a bit more live. But you can isolate again in training. And then that's in sparring. There's not like that recall problem. Like, you just do it anyway.
Yeah.
There's a continuity, just the intensity changes. Instead of it being 3 different martial arts, essentially. Context is king. What the hell's happened to that cable? Some stuff's got burnt. I don't know. Any further thoughts on that?
No, I kind of agree with what you're saying on that one, to be fair. No. Have you got any other more questions, or is that the last one?
I think that's most of the... That was like the big question solved right there. That was one that I really cared about. I know I care about all the questions, but I knew the one that was... Okay, poorly worded. I care about all the questions, but I knew that was the one that was going to take the most time to kind of explain, is this idea that take some of the information from all the previous work, but it'll have changed. And they're all, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the Patreon, essentially, is before me and you get to make videos, the ideas that I kind of like is arrive into my head, I'll put on the Patreon and go, right, this is what I'm kind of thinking, this is what I'm trying, this is what I'm, what do you think? And then once that's kind of settled, I'm like, cool, we're doing this, pretty consistently. Then make it into the bigger videos, and that's when we do you and I together when we get a chance. So again, there's that kind of like, you see the progression, and the Patreon pretty much uses my come on this journey with me. I'm figuring it out as well. If there's stuff you want to know, let me know. This is what's currently working for me, and this is how it's kind of going in the gym.
We're all figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, black belts have to be figuring it out as well. Which, when I first heard that from a black belt years and years and years ago, when I was a blue belt and black belts were mythical creatures, is this idea. I was told, don't record me. I was like, why? I'll be wrong by the time you record it. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're a black belt. I thought you had this thing figured out. Like, no, no idea. I don't know what this belt means, but it doesn't mean I figured it out. And yeah, I could wholeheartedly agree with that. Some stuff, yeah, absolutely, it's still the same. and it gives you a good base, but you also have to come on the journey and go, right, where things gone since.
Yeah, some concepts are concrete, like they are grappling. You can't move away from them. But what always changes, I think, is because of the way we're now killing this divide. I think we're bridging the gap, aren't we, now, between training and competition in our gym, especially now.
Yeah, and also like it's also bridging that gap between defense and offense.
Yeah,
that's always the big one. Is that how do you turn the defense back into offense again, and how does it relate to each other? Not just like shutting down the defense, or like looking at the opposite. Like if you want the armpits as an offense, then you need to hide it for a defense. But like how to strategically implement it, and like how you'd go from various things and how you'd use them in grappling. That's taken time. I'm glad we've kind of spent the time to learn and adopt those.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm really appreciative of what we do on this. So this podcast. I mean, I think this is we've really come back strong, considering that it was like, oh, knack, I still had that, like I was still paying for the podcast. Should we do it again? And now look, we're getting equipment and like recording properly. Like I've got like actual decent headphones so I can hear properly, and a microphone with a pop filter. So and you're investing in better and better headphones every week. I mean, the first time I thought you were like recording via potato. Now you've got
a sub,
and now you've got a tripod, and so the camera stays still.
Yeah,
like, we're moving up in the world, dude.
It's progress.
I know, right? I've even got a ring light to like illuminate me properly. Strange. Taking this seriously now, and I'm appreciative of it as well, because I'm like, it's listen to what we did 2 years ago. I can't. It'd be so awful.
I know.
But people can come on this journey with us via the Discord, via just watching what we put out on YouTube, via the Patreon, the podcast, obviously. We're figuring this out as well. And, some weeks we're going to be saying stuff and we're going like, yeah, this makes a complete sense for us right now. Like working this way. And next week we're going like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I think I think one of the greatest drivers of that is always doing it with beginners and always trying to find the simplest way of explaining something to a beginner.
Yeah.
Like dialing it down repeatedly until it's crystallized form. What's left in the petri dish once you've burnt everything away.
Just simplify. Just how can they get it easily? Like, the way you don't have to show them a million things.
Yeah.
And we've recently noticed that, haven't we? Really, like it works. That style, that way of teaching does work.
Well, and that's why I can't really understand this idea of like an advanced class and a fundamentals class. Like, I don't see how you teach advanced stuff and fundamental stuff, or what would classify as fundamentals and what would classify as advanced. Like advanced, just more complex movements. Fine, but if your fundamentals are just simple movements, if neither have context, they're kind of worthless. Both, like, and good fundamentals look advanced. That's the thing. Like, if you know pressure, a very fundamental idea how to just apply your weight correctly. If you're under someone who understands that, has mastered that, good God, it is awful. But it's easy again to get that kind of Instagram 1 minute video. It's why it's very difficult to put any of this stuff on Instagram, because all the stuff we explain isn't a minute long. Like we're going to have to deep dive into these ideas. I can't explain the next few seconds. I ramble anyway. But we want cool, flashy, and all that. But you come across someone who's like, oh yeah, he definitely turned his back because he put his weight on me. It felt like I was getting crushed by 3 cars. That's pretty fundamental to me. Like, why just do that repeatedly? Same with boxing. Like someone who's just head movement's a fundamental idea. Footwork is a fundamental idea, but done well and mastered. Terrifying. Like hitting a ghost. And it's the exact same with this. And that's why I don't like this idea of separating these things out. And just, it's why I've never stopped teaching beginners. Even when I had the opportunity, like, oh no, I could have left, you when you were at Purple Belt. Oh, you teach the beginner class, I'll teach advanced. Nope. I'm going to teach beginners. I'm going to explain to beginners basics standing up day in, day out till it's scary. It seems to work.
Yeah.
It's just reframing, I guess. Jiu-jitsu in your head. Not thinking you need all new shit. And I think that's, again, that kind of weird impatience, entitlement to jiu-jitsu. And instead of thinking that you could just grind the fundamentals and become slicker and slicker, and like, no, give me a technique that solves the problem I've got. Well, no, it's always the same answer. No, I need a technique to solve this that I can do 3 or 4 times and I'll remember it and stop what's happening to me. Or you could just get slicker at the real fundamentals. No, I need a new technique. I am not happy with how I'm choking someone. Like, give me more chokes from this situation. Or just get better at the ones you're doing. No, like, I need new technique. Yeah, I think that's why we're very much still stuck in the martial arts days when it comes to jiu-jitsu. We're not a combat sport yet. We're trying. It's just on the cusp of doing it. But we suck.
Yeah. Sad.
On that note, I think that's a dire... before I finish, I think that'd be good for the next one, is talk about why coaching has changed. So the next podcast...
We're going to get cancelled, mate. We're going to get cancelled.
I'm trying not to. I think we're doing all right. Spotify still have us.
Well, Brazil is already after you.
You wait till gi season. Like, that rainbow belt is going to be there every goddamn session. That'd be also something like really interesting to talk about. Is I'll see if we can get some guests who are good at it as well. Just like BJJ marketing, building a martial arts club, like getting people invested, making them interested, keeping their interest. It's not about jiu-jitsu, I don't think. Okay, fine. I'm going to say something about that. No one does jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu's sake. No one stays at jiu-jitsu because you can be at a shit club and you're like, it's dog shit. Like, yeah, I know the training's wank, but you stay because you're friends. Even if you know the training shit, you'll stick because you're friends. Yeah. And I think that's one of the kind of crucial things about running a jiu-jitsu camp as well, and a club in general, is the coach creates the environment, and the environment has to be a social club. And that's why I think the Globetrotters camps are so successful. It's because it's a 6-day traveling circus party with some jiu-jitsu there. And it's like, because at the main camp with me and Christian do this like Q&A thing. Not Q&A, but we like take topics out of a hat and like talk about it. And one of the topics is similar to that. And he said, like, you know, when he first started his gym in Copenhagen, he said it wasn't a jiu-jitsu club with a drinking problem. It was a drinking club with a jiu-jitsu problem. And I like that idea. Yeah, and that's... I think that's one thing that I've kind of really noticed that we're really pushing right now is that the inclusion aspect. Like, it doesn't matter what belt you are. Like, no, as soon as you're in, like, we want to know your name and we're friends with you now. And that, I think,
we're gonna bully you and take the piss out of you.
Yeah, exactly. We'll make someone feel welcome, know their name, like, talk to them, like, care about them. Weird that. And it doesn't matter what belt. There can't be that kind of segregation of belts. Like, you know, I'm going to learn a white belt's name until they're a blue belt. Madness. No, like, they're human beings as well. Make them feel like, you know, wanted. Like, they're going out and seeing their friends for an evening. Because they are wanted. I don't look at any person and think of their belt or their level. I look at them as, oh, that's my friend. I'm going to have a good roll with them. Or a terrible roll. Or I might just smash them and enjoy it and laugh at them as I smash them and joke about it. And we'll talk about more about that. I think that's a really crucial part. I think that's probably the most important part of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Outside of coaching.
That'd be a good episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it will. Maybe next week. We have got a couple of guests lined up. Just finalising their arrival. And yeah, man, I'm like, oh, damn, I got these guys. Yeah, that's the next one. Left it on a more positive note than where it was going.
Yeah, it was getting
so-
a bit sad and negative.
Nah, I'm not feeling that way, man. I'm positive now. Super
Yeah.
positive. Fatigued,
Good.
but positive. This has been Reap the Week with Naki and I. Thank you for listening in. I hope this episode finds you well, whichever platform you use. If you have any way of letting us know, let us know how you listen to this. I'd be interested to see where this is getting picked up, or if you're using YouTube. Thank you for staying up late and talking to me, Naki.
No problem. Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Oh man, get some sleep, and I'll speak to you. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.